Oh, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's a wrestling classic. Justin here back for the TWC show, and boy, do we have a lot to talk about because we have not done this show in like a week.
2 weeks.
We didn't even do genuinely a week, I think, maybe 2 weeks, but we haven't even done a recap for Money in the Bank, so we're going to talk about that a little bit and some other things. But besides that, we're going to talk about life. So if you are listening to the TWC show live on Ruckus Avenue Radio every Monday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, make sure you guys are checking us out. Check us on the Dash Radio app on Ruckus Avenue Radio every Monday. But Daniel, man, there was so much to talk about. So let's get the wrestling stuff out of the way first.
Let's do it.
Let's get right to it. Congratulations, Liv Morgan. What a night for Liv Morgan. The last 2 weeks have been wild for me. I had a wedding that weekend of Money in the Bank, and I was just in Calgary, so we never got to do this yet. But congratulations, the Cinderella story from Hooters. People are like, how is that a Cinderella story from Hooters to WWE? Why are you downgrading Hooter workers? I'm like, we don't even have Hooters in Canada. But shout out to Liv Morgan. I'm extremely happy for Gianna Daddio. You guys have heard the story before. I've met her. She's been super cool with me. She just shared my post yesterday. She's always supporting. And like the ultimate underdog story in the women's division. I think more than Nikki Ash, more than anybody else, like Liv Morgan's been the ultimate underdog for the last 2-3 years, always getting so close, but not actually getting there, getting title opportunities, not actually winning. I think for the last 2-3 years, I was rooting for her in the Money in the Bank to win, and then she finally did.
I'm so happy for her, man. It's cool to see people that grew up watching wrestling, especially like hardcore wrestling fans, grow up and, fulfill their dreams and fulfill like being women's champion, WWE champion, world heavyweight, intercontinental, whatever that goal may be. And it's cool because I know, we've seen it a lot of times. Like, who wants this and who doesn't. Like, you can see it in their eyes whenever they come out. Like, and you even brought this up many times. Like, Liv Morgan has helped out so many of the young women that are coming up in this like generation.
And we're not talking about women like in WWE and stuff, like women that are pursuing professional
wrestling,
like
right?
The young girls that are on social media, part of our community that you see are just beginning to train or looking to pursue professional wrestling. She's one of those women that goes out of her way and she hits them up in the DM. She'll have conversations with them. She'll give them moral support and even financial support in some cases. There's some stories about that. Liv's a really cool person. Gianna's a really cool person. The one downfall I'll say, personal opinion, I was hoping she'd hold the briefcase for a little while because there's only been one woman that's held the briefcase longer than the night of or longer than 48 hours, and that was Carmella. But other than Mella, everyone's either like cashed in the night of or the night after. In Liv's case, she cashed in the same night on Ronda Rousey. You know who's beating Ronda Rousey? Charlotte, Becky, and Liv Morgan.
That's such a cool stat too. They really say that because you know what I mean. Like, not a lot of people have beaten Ronda Rousey, but for her to just come out and like the way she came out too, like you think she wasn't gonna cash in, and like for her music to hit, and then Rousey just puts her in the ankle lock. Thought she was gonna tap out, but they told a great story there where the underdog overcame the odds, and great way to just cap it off.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, like it just shows how much everybody, like her peers, like kayfabe aside, everything were like really wanting this for her. Because even Ronda was like willing to put her over, and she's the young one backstage. I think everyone kind of is happy for and happy to see her reach this level of success. She spent months and months training with TJ and Natty. I'd love to know what TJ thought about it to see her finally reach that mountaintop. I'm sure even people like Sasha and Naomi who aren't with the company right now, but Sasha, shout out to Sasha, anyone going to C2, E2 or whatever it's called, she will be signing there. But even them, I'm sure they were happy to see Liv reach this place. So shout out to Liv Morgan. She's a SmackDown Women's Champion. Whether it lasts a long time or it lasts till the end of this month at SummerSlam, or if it goes for 4 months or 3 months, I don't care. I'm just
listen,
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, listen, it's cool that she won it. It's one of those things where it doesn't matter how long this title reign lasts, doesn't matter how short, how long. It's the fact that she won it, and we're always gonna cherish that moment. Like we don't sit here and talk about how Eddie Guerrero was champion.
That's using my example. You're literally using my example.
Don't know what you're talking about, pal. Get original, brother. I'm kidding.
That's but my example.
We don't sit here and we don't talk about Eddie was champion for 4 months. We talk about how he won it. Everyone was so hooked into just him being WWE champion. We wanted that. He overcame all the real life adversities and all those obstacles, but it's how you win it. It's how you present yourself.
What I've been saying for weeks is that, like, for the most part, unless you have a really long reign, it's like CM Punk's 434 days of what Roman's doing right now, or what like Kevin Nash Diesel did in 95. Like, unless it's one or Brock for a really long unless it's really long, you most of the time you don't remember how long people's reigns are. You just remember how many times they've won it, and then maybe you'll be like, "Oh, they won it these many times." But that one time, like Cena held it for all of 2006, like that was wild. Like you remember when they're long, but you don't really remember when they're short. And I mean,
exactly.
Like, I use Eddie for example because Eddie's a situation where like he held it for 4 months, but nobody gives a crap. We're just happy he won it.
Eddie's another example, but also Jeff Hardy. He held the title for like 2 months, dude. 2 months, and he dropped it to the Edge at the Rumble in 2009, and that was it. He never won the WWE title again. But when people bring up like who are like the best people to win the WWE title, like in terms of moments, it's these moments that are gonna make you forever like immortal in a sense. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to sound corny, but they leave an impact on your legacy when you look back on their career, on whoever it may be. But for example, Dolph Ziggler cashed in his Money in the Bank. Another great example. We always talk about his cash in. You know what I mean? We don't talk about his run. Of course, his run wasn't up to par with how we thought it was going to be, but it's these moments. Wrestling's all about moments.
Dolph was a 2-time world champion. Both of them were really short.
Exactly.
But one was like in the same night. He lost it. He was given the belt and lost to the Edge at the end of the night. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
but it's cool, man. It's cool to see Liv win.
I'm happy for her. Shout out to Liv Morgan. Shout out to Gianna. I'm happy for all of her friends. The Stony Jabroni of Kayfabe Clothing, and everyone's like excited. It's just it's good for her, man. Like no one can ever take this away from her now. She had 3 major achievements in one night. She won the Money in the Bank, she won the Women's Championship, and she beat Ronda Rousey. Like that's wild to me. And obviously, like, don't be wrong, guys. You know, like Rousey, Natty worked on Ronda's leg, and yada yada yada.
Hey,
I was looking forward to a Natty Ronda feud because, like, Natty's kind of a mentor to Ronda and helping her train. That'd be a cool thing. But looks like we're getting Liv versus Ronda at SummerSlam. Kind of scary. Don't know if she could beat Ronda straight up, but we'll see. SummerSlam card's looking all right for me. It's not like the greatest. Brock and Roman again, and Theory and Lashley. I've said this a million times. Shout out to Theory. He won the men's Money in the Bank. That's a big deal. He wasn't even in the match, so we couldn't predict that he'd win. My prediction of Logan Paul didn't come true, unfortunately. But I got excited when Adam Pearce was like, someone else is being in the match. I'm like, Logan Paul. And then it was
part of me, I know you're gonna hate this. Part of me thought it was gonna be Cena. A little bit.
Trash.
You would have been hyped.
Cena's actually here in Vancouver filming season 2 of Peacemaker. Maybe I'll see him on the streets and jump him or something. But
cut that.
You don't even Surrey. Don't come to the hood. But shout out to Austin Theory. Good choice, man. He's a real heel. People don't like him. I don't even like him that much. I don't care for him that much. So he must be doing what he's doing well.
He's doing something right.
Not Austin Theory. Though. I was like, oh shit, he's a good heel. That means
he's great. I think. Listen, man. Like a heel's supposed to make you not like him. He's great. He's good at what he does. And it was unpredictable, to be honest. We thought. Maybe Seth, maybe so on so, but we threw in a little curveball, which is always cool with the company. So I always
shout out to the most beautiful woman in the WWE, Carmella. She's still feuding Bianca. It seems like I don't think it's gonna be Bianca versus Carmella at SummerSlam though.
Triple threat.
There's someone else that's getting involved, and I can't think of them off the top of my head right now. But I feel like there might be someone else. But I want Carmella to stay involved. She had a good match with Bianca at Money in the Bank. I watched it. It wasn't bad. She held on. Like I said, Carmella's one of the most versatile. Reliable people on that women's division. You want her to be funny, she'll be funny. You want her to be serious, You want her to be a contender, she'll be a contender. You want her to win that belt and carry it, people buy into it too, and they'll hate her for it. Like she's just one of the most versatile, reliable people on there. I'm not just saying that because she's like the homie and I'm like a Mella mark, but Mella's money, Leah's dope, and I'm happy for her. Also very happy for Lashley. He seems to be the most over babyface on Raw right now. with
Super
Cody.
cool.
I'm gonna die on this hill. I hate the fact that Roman has both world titles. I think right now Lashley being the WWE champion would have been dope. And Lashley versus Seth for the WWE championship at SummerSlam just seems like a sick match for that card. And with Theory looking around, like it would just they could tell a really cool story there, but they can't do it. And now Lashley's the United States champion. It's just dumb. In my opinion, but that's that. Shout out! I'm happy for Lashley though. I think this, honestly, since he's been back in 2018, it's kind of rough start, but like 2020 forward, he's just been killing it. Ever since he was paired up with MVP, he's just been killing it.
Yeah.
On the flip side, shout out to my boys Swerve, Shane Strickland, and Keith Lee becoming the new AEW World Tag Team Champions. Talk about not having a long reign. The Young Bucks just and they lost him already to Swerve and Our Glory. I was kind of surprised. I didn't see it coming. I thought we were going to get FTR versus the Young Bucks for all the belts, but I was
going to say that, yeah.
I guess we're not. I guess Swerve and Our Glory is the new tag team champion, and I'm not mad about it. It's cool. Like they, you know, I don't want the titles to change hands for a little bit now. Like hang on to them, but it's nice to have them. I don't really. I was never too much of a fan of Swerve and Keith Lee being a tag team. I think Ricky Starks and Will Hobbs winning this would have been super cool.
Yeah,
but I'm not going to be happy for Swerve because that's my boy, and I'm happy for Keith Lee because Keith Lee's been the most irrelevant out of all this, and he's won a belt. So,
no, he's a man, dude. Keith
Lee is a man, though. The match was sick. Keith Lee was flying all over the place, and Ricky Starks, star.
I love Ricky. Freaking great talent overall.
And what else is happening all on this side? Happy birthday, Anna J. That's one of my homies. She's super nice. Happy birthday to her. What else happening in AEW right now? Jericho cut a really good promo. He's fighting Eddie Kingston in some electrifying, no, maybe not, some sort of barbed wire match. I don't know, some gimmick match that these threw together. Why is this girl singing on my Instagram?
No.
Yeah, it's Swerve guys won. Anna J and Pay Conte kind of be. Britt's back. Shout out to Britt. She's back. There's some other stuff that happened that I'm just like. Did you see that picture of Booker T getting back in the ring?
Yeah, that was cool, man. I think he fought one of his students, right?
Reality of Wrestling. But I'm like, he's ready for a comeback. And I'm not saying like a full-on comeback, but if he came back for one match, I'd be with it.
Even the Rumble, man. Like, just that'd be a little cool camera.
Oh, this is what I want to talk about. Sorry. Briscoes, FTR, round 2, Ring of Honor.
What's happening?
Honor before dishonor, or whatever it's called. It has happened. 2 out of 3 falls. I'm hyped. Match 1 was sick. Probably one of the best matches of 2022. Dax Harwood, Cash Wheeler versus Jay and Mark Briscoe. Them boys. Ring of Honor. Next Saturday. I'm looking forward to it.
Next Saturday. Wow.
Yeah. Are you not hyped? That's a sick match.
I did not even know about that match until right now. Like, wow.
Yeah, no, they accepted the challenge. The boys accepted the challenge. Also, don't get me wrong, other match. It's on, July 23rd. Death Before Dishonor. My bad. Honor Before Dishonor or whatever. It's a death. There's a couple of good matches on there, though. Like, obviously, FTR versus the Briscoes, 2 out of 3 falls. I'm hyped for Wheeler Yuta versus Daniel Garcia. And listen, I give zero shits about Wheeler Yuta, but, like, I like Daniel Garcia, and at least I know Yuta can wrestle, so this will be, like, a good pure championship wrestling match. So
good technical, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Guys, if you aren't in the Discord, click the link in my bio, join the Discord. We've been super active in it. I've been super active in it for the past, like, month. It's been a good time, so hop in there if you guys want. We talk all about Ring of Honor. That just came to my head right now because we talked about we've been talking about the G1 coming up, the New Japan G1. I don't usually follow it or keep up with it because it's like a lot of wrestling, but I always tell people to tell me the best matches from the tournament, and then I'll go watch those because I like a good wrestling match from New Japan. So definitely go check that out. Is there anything else? I feel like that's enough for like what's happened. Like shout out to Liv, shout out to Swerve, shout out to Bobby, shout out to Austin Theory.
I mean, Dolph came back. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, we can. I just there's a lot I do want to talk about, but that's sick too. My thing is this, and I said this in the Discord.
Let's talk about it.
What if Dolph came back like the Joker? I wish he like painted half his face and he was just like miserable or something. Lost his mind.
I don't know about that, but I'm just happy to see this guy on TV because he can go, man. I don't care if he doesn't win the belt, wins the belt, doesn't matter. It's just so cool to see this guy on TV again because he lost the NXT title to Braun Breaker the night after WrestleMania, and he like disappeared. And then he came back with the segment with Omos, Bobby Roode, like 3 weeks ago, and then disappeared. And now he's back, and he turned face for the first time in like 6 years, 5 years, I believe. So I think it's really cool for him to just like be placed in this spot. And I don't know if he's gonna put over Theory. I don't know what the situation is, but well, I'm here for it, man. Give me Dolph Ziggler bangers, and I shall be seated.
How'd you feel about in the Discord when I asked people if Dolph should have one more run? And
I think
we had a lot of ship have sailed people.
I don't like the idea of like the ship has sailed, he's too old. That doesn't exist because Goldberg can come back on a belt. No one bats an eye, but someone who's been really consistent with their work and someone who's, outworked a lot of the people, in my opinion, I think he deserves it, as like, but
yeah.
I don't know, man. I think like he was really over at one point, trust me, but if we can get the machine behind him again, like, dude.
Is there anything else that happened on television that you want to talk about? Because we can move on. We got lots to talk about.
I'm trying to think.
I'm
gonna
drop a couple of things I don't think I've talked about on the show, guys. August 21st, Rio Theater here in Vancouver. I'll be hosting a night with Daniel Bryan where we'll be asking him questions live on stage. I'll be there on stage with Bryan doing a live show. First time ever I've done something like this. People ask me if I'm nervous. I don't know if I'm necessarily nervous, but I feel like the nerves will hit me like the week of. I'm looking forward to it. So if you are in Vancouver, if you are in Victoria, if you are in Kelowna, if you are in Seattle or Calgary or Lake Louise, I don't know, wherever you are, Kamloops, come down, come to the Rio Theater, come see me interview Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson, the American Dragon, live in Vancouver. We don't get this stuff often. Every once in a while. I know WWE's coming back in September too, but think of this as a precursor. Me interviewing Bryan live at the Rio Theater, August 21st.
I'm happy for you, man. This is big.
In the bio.
Thanks, man. This is big. You deserve it. I know you had me on, I think last November. You didn't have to, but I will for it. I cherish that shit, man.
That's the thing too, because I feel like so Andrew Roberts of Got Pop Concerts, who's actually like setting up the entire event, he asked me like a month ago, he's like, would you be interested in hosting it if I do another one?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, of course, but he didn't tell me with who. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, maybe it's Brett, maybe it's Raven again, maybe it's Dolph, because he's brought these guys here before. I didn't know it was even totally new. I was obviously fingers crossed wishing it was Brett, and we'll get to more of that in a little bit here. But then finally on Sunday last week, he told me it was Bryan. I got hyped a little bit because I'm like, oh, we've already talked to him. There's already like a repertoire there. Mm-hmm. I can pull things back from like our last conversation. Like, so has your like son gone from beer hugging people to actually putting them in headlocks now? Like I can already work off of things we've already talked about, which is nice. That's what made me a little bit less nervous. If it was someone I hadn't talked to before, I might have been a little like, this is new. So it's cool to see it's Bryan. And I said it before, and I'm saying this in the most humble, non-cocky way. I think the interview we did with him was probably one of his favorite ones because I went back and I watched all the rest of his interviews and I went to the end and he was always just like, oh, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. With us, he was like laughing. He wanted to stay. And he said, this is a great interview. Like,
yeah, it's like another 45 minutes, I believe, because we had 30 minutes original. And
I think we went to 50 or something.
Like 40
or something. But like, no, I think we had like 20, we thought, because he was going to go to Dynamite. As
yeah.
But like, he was super cool. So and Meech is coming. That's Bryan's manager. That's my homie. So it'll be a good time. August 21st, Rio Theater, Vancouver, Wrestling Classics hosting a night with Bryan Danielson. Make sure you guys come through. We'll ask all the hard-hitting questions. On top of that, talking about big, I got another interview coming this week, and I will let you guys know what that is once it's finished and it's done and it's recorded and in the bag. Thanks everyone that checked out the Wardlow interview that popped off. To be honest,
so cool. Great interview.
And so if you guys haven't, go check out the Wardlow interview. Go check out the Casual Conversation with Will Sasso. That one popped off too, and I didn't expect that one too. We talked about things from like 20 years ago, and I started getting headlines again. And yeah, I'm trying to finish off an article right now of my top 10 must-watch Stone Cold Steve Austin matches. That should be up on 1:37 p.m. this week sometime. And my last plug has nothing to do with wrestling, but my boy DJ Intense just dropped another EP with Diljit Dosanjh. If you are Punjabi, if you're listening to this on Ruckus Avenue Radio right now, Go check out the drive-thru. I never got paid for this plug. Anil's my boy. We went to high school together. He's working with Dhillon. It's a big deal. He's trying to change his vibe a little bit so he can collab with other stars like The Weeknd and etc. And we just saw Dhillon collab with Tory Lane, so he's singing a little bit in English and stuff. It's a little interesting, a little funny, but I've been digging it. Shout out to my boy Johnny, who I graduated with as well. He wrote the lyrics for one of the songs in Vanilla. He's been killing the game too. Love those guys. And if you're into Desi music, you will enjoy it. But now that I talked for the last 5 minutes straight, we're going to talk about my trip to Calgary last. And we're just going to have a brief little conversation about Danial the wrestler in training. Oh, so for those of you that don't know, Danial, this might have to be a new weekly segment, but Danial is actually training to become a professional. He's finally going to a school at a consistent basis in his own hometown, meaning he's not going to stop going anytime soon. And he's got to work with some really cool people. You don't have to share too much if you don't want to share too much, but we got to work with Damien Sandow, aka Aaron Stevens. You got to work with Santino a little bit, because the Santino School of Battle Arts. You got to work with a couple of people that are pretty prominent on the indie scene, like our boy Nick, the Asylum, who I met over the past weekend in Calgary. But how's it been? How's your first reactions to training? What's the biggest thing you've had to overcome?
So I started about, I believe, a week and a half ago on a Tuesday, and I went in there, with no expectations, because wrestling doesn't owe you anything. You have to put in the work. You have to be there on a consistent basis. You have to do everything, And I went in there and I introduced myself, and it was good, man. I took a couple bumps. I felt great. And for those that don't know, I actually trained for a week in Texas just to see if this was for me, because ever since I was growing up, all I would want to do is become a wrestler. And I was pretty confident that this was for me, but I just wanted to give it a go and see if this was really it. And I feel like this is it for me. And some of the things I had to overcome was the fear of failing, because you are going to fail. You're gonna mess up, and it's okay, because that's how you learn. That's how the pros become good, And one of the things that I was told by, I guess I'll just say, Aaron Stevens, also known as Damien Sandow, he said something to us where I think it was along the lines of, the reason why the pros are so good is because they're so good at the basics, doing a headlock so many times, perfecting it, tweaking little things here and there, making sure it looks really good on TV and everything. And I think that really stuck with me. Get really good at the basics and then worry about everything else later. So that was something I took from one of the days he taught us. But yeah, man, I had a little fear of screwing up, and but I would go there every single day for the last every 4 days of the week, and I actually busted there. I don't have a car. I busted there for an hour and 30 minutes, but I spent 6 hours with travel, with going there, and I always stayed with the advanced classes because I want to learn as much possible, and I also want to make a good impression on anybody. But I just want to get really good at this, and I feel like I was never really good at anything else in my life in terms of sports. I was never the fastest kid in track. I was never 6 feet tall to play basketball. I was never that kid. But I feel like my entire life, I finally found something I'm good at. I think I'm good at. I kind of messed up. But.
I mean, you're still learning. You're in the beginning stages. I feel like I've had to remind you a bunch of times that this is the time you can make mistakes, and it's okay. And you don't need to be so hard on yourself. It's been the first 2 weeks, and you're not supposed to technically know everything. You haven't been doing this for a whole bunch of years, and I'm sure I've heard you tell me that your trainers have said the same things to you. Just get out of your own head. It's cool.
I get it.
It's okay to mess up. It's okay to roll the wrong way. It's okay to not know to tuck your chin sometimes, because you haven't been doing this. It's not it's not picking up a glass, something that you do on a regular basis, or driving a car. That's I always say driving a car, because I feel like once you start driving, you can even say riding a bike for anyone that might be younger than this. The more you ride a bike, the better you get at it. It just takes reps and doing it, and the more you drive, the more you learn, because you get put in tough situations that don't happen to you when you're taking a driver's test. And I think that's the same with wrestling. I think I think you've been from what you've told me, like everyone thinks you've been doing good. A lot of people see something in you, and you've got to work with some pretty cool people.
Sure, yeah.
You know, like you got to lock up with Damian Sandow. You got to
And
get
I don't know why.
you got to go on, yeah.
I don't know why, but I always feel like I have a freaking chip on my shoulder every time I walk in there. Like I want to prove something to somebody. You know, I don't want to just be known as that guy who does interviews. I did these interviews to network and, you know, make friendships. That's how I met Justin. That's how I met TJ. That's how I met all these people. And, you know, I don't ever want to take that for granted. I'm super grateful to be in the position where I am today, and with all the support I've been giving with peers, with you, with family, friends, girlfriend, everybody. Like, you know, it's all the ups and downs led to this, and I know there's going to be more of those in the future, and it shouldn't, you know, make me any less weaker, but it's just going to make me better as a person. And it's about, you know, experience with life. And I think like Sandow and I talked about this, you know, every time we enter our practices, I'd always go around, shake people's hands, you know, thank them, you know, students, coaches, everybody. Like I love what I do truly. And, you know, and I invested a little bit in myself. I bought out some supplements, like our wrestling shoes, like, you know, and it's putting that time, putting that effort, and like, you know, and then also on my off time, I will go back, watch matches, figure out promos, figure out who I am. And then, you know, yesterday
Who have you been studying? Who have you been watching a lot of?
who have been a lot of Eddie Guerrero. I really like his 2005 heel stuff where he was just, you know, himself in a way, where he was just being a dick. And like, you know, I think that's who you are supposed to be. Like the saying goes like, you're supposed to be yourself, but the volume turned up to 100, right? So Eddie, Brett, I'm trying to think who else. Piper a little bit Piper, Raven. I'll say I like what Dolph does in the ring. I think he's really fluent, so I've been kind of picking up little things from him.
I mean, he's one of the best workers in the business in the past 10 years, like top tier. I mean,
top tier, yeah.
I really had to think of like, and listen, as a fan, I'm saying this way, and I feel like I've been saying this all weekend because we can say all this stuff about wrestling, but I'm like, as a fan, so tell me if I'm wrong. We'll get to that in a minute. But as a fan, like, if I had to rank like the top workers in the business in the past 5 to 10 years, like Dolph's in the top 5, I would assume. Like, you know, like guys that just really can just go in the ring, like no matter what, against no matter who. Like the man had a match with Great Khali and it was solid. Like, you know,
I would say Dolph, and I've been also studying a little bit of the Miz because I feel like I have that in me in terms of like the Miz was from the outside world, and for me, I feel like I do interviews. I don't know if I have this thing built in my head where I feel like kind of like that, you know what I mean? But I'm trying to do my best, man, every single day, every time I go there. You know, it's all about respect. It's about earning respect. You know, it's not given, and I just want to make the best of the situation. And yesterday, we were all, not all of us, but some of them got to cut promos. And on the bus, I didn't have to do this, and I wanted to because I wanted to, like, I really want this. I want to make a good impression on Aaron, right? So on the bus, you gave me some ideas, and I just wrote a promo about my life, who I am, who I grew up watching, and I did not get a chance to cut that promo. But after class, I went up to Aaron. I was like, listen.
low key, just I'm gonna put myself over. I'm a pretty good promo writer. Just, you know, if anyone's listening.
He's great.
Brains
behind the operation.
I'm a good. You know what? I've been told a couple of times in my life that you should be a writer, but I just don't. You know, just throwing that out there. Shout out. What up, AEW? What up, MLW? I had a conversation this weekend. We're talking about what I did this past weekend, though. But I did have a conversation, and it ties into what you're talking about, though. Mm-hmm. And that's why I want to give Battle Arts a little bit of a shout out. Is I was talking to both Mo, Kid Chocolate, and Raj, who is on Raj Singh, who's on Impact Wrestling, Gama Singh's son, the legendary Gama Singh, his son. And we were discussing how. And this is why I said that earlier. I kept having to say, you know, from a fan's perspective, because like I'm like an outsider looking in, but everyone gave me the benefit of the doubt and they trusted my word. And a lot of them agreed with me. I'm like, I feel like now I'm like, all you wrestlers, you're super talented. Like Mo's super talented in the ring. He's good in the ring, man. He sells like Brett. He does the whole huffing puffing thing, like he's out of breath, and you believe it. Like takes a buckle bump like Brett. We posted on my page. Like Mo's the man, and Roger's solid in the ring, man. He can wrestle. He can do the thing. Like they're all more athletic than the wrestlers of the past and better shape than them. They got that shit down. But I'm like, the one thing that I find now, in my personal opinion, is that a lot of kids these days want to learn how to wrestle and how to do the spots and get their shit in, and how do I do this and how do I learn that? I want to, I want to do what this person in the ring. I want to do that thing, but nobody really learns how to talk anymore. They don't learn how to talk in the independents. People aren't promoting their matches, upcoming matches, by cutting promos for social media like they probably should. That's why when Raj cut one for Dungeon Wrestling, I shared it on my story because I got excited. I'm like, oh, he cut a promo on Harry. Like, that's dope. And people don't really get that experience of talking. So then when they hit the big leagues, like, yeah, there's still promo classes if you're in the PC and stuff, but like you don't really learn how to talk. And it's part of the whole package. And I'm like, it's not even just like, oh, like getting comfortable going in the ring and cutting a live promo or something. I'm like, back in the day, in the territory days and in the 80s and the 90s, guys would just cut promos backstage in front of the green screen or with Mean Gene or something, promoting the upcoming show in the city, and I'm gonna face you there. But they would do that over and over and over again, even if they made mistakes, pre-taped promos, until they got comfortable with it and kind of knew who they are. And I think wrestlers don't do that no more. So even when they do go out to the live mic, they haven't even like done the million take pre-tapes to like get comfortable with who they are. I always give the example, like, we don't know how many times Savage might have tried to cut that cup of coffee in the big time promo or the cream of the crop promo. Like, that could have been like 30 takes, but we don't remember. We don't know. We just saw the one take that was good, and it's like the most iconic promo ever. But it allowed him to get comfortable in the skin of the Macho Man. So then when he did have to go in front of a live crowd on a live show with a live mic, he's more comfortable doing so because he's got that confidence from cutting these promos, these pre-taped promos, which he probably had to take like 5 or 10 takes to get it solid and perfect. So I'm a big promo guy. I feel like there's a lot of good wrestlers today. I think everyone's uber talented. I just think that I hate to do this on the show, but I use Ricochet as the perfect example. Ricochet's a great wrestler. He's tremendous. I don't want to listen to Ricochet talk because I don't think he can. So like, but is that his fault? Is that just the product of the independent scene right now, where everything's about the wrestling, good wrestling? Some of these guys go to their own way and they practice promos in the mirror and they record their promos, or they're making, like when I interviewed all the guys from Hit Row, from Tahuti to AJ to Swerve, they had talked about how, like we took notes in our phones anytime we thought of a cool line, and then like we were ready to say them. Like we had promos ready to go, we had raps ready to go, bars down. That's just like, some guys care about it and some people don't, but I think everybody should. And I think that's super cool that you guys have a promo class. I've talked to other people, oh, I don't think you really need a promo class at a wrestling school. Like, you should learn the fundamentals first. I'm like, no, you probably should.
No, for sure. And like, learning promo class was so important because it brings out like one other personality, and that you can connect that with your in-ring stuff. For example,
I'm glad you said that because I was just thinking that. I was like, oh, I should have said that. But that's a thing, because if you know who you are as a character, it moves your actions in the ring.
Exactly. And one of the most important things Sandow told us was like, no one can, like, you can't mess up your own character because no one's going to know it. Only you know it, and you can't really go too deep into your character because there's always going to be something more. For example, he told us, he was like, when I was doing the Sandow thing, like, I know what Sandow would eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like there was layers to his character, and you gotta think of that. Like, what is Daniel gonna eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what is he gonna do? How does he sleep at night? What does he wear? What does he do? Like, how does he talk to people? And it's like all these things that make up a person, because that's what it is. You know what I mean? It's about putting on a performance, and But it was so cool to like just, I cut a great promo. I think he told me it was good. I'm my own fucking biggest critic, but hey man, I'm just, it's my second weekend, and I can't wait. I love working with the guys there, and and it's a great environment, great coaches, Coach Nick, Coach Anthony, great people. Also Coach AC. I love that place, man, and I want to get better. Like, and shout out to Clay Wilson, someone who's another independent wrestler, and he's been killing it for a while in the Canadian wrestling scene. And he's been really taking time with me, even like sometimes during class, to teach me a few holds, a few things. Also go over with me a few things. So I appreciate everyone's patience, and I'm really happy to be where I am, and I really can't wait to see what happens next.
Real quickly, who are some guys at Battle Arts that you think that people should check out that they might not know so far wrestling? Give them a quick shout out, because I always like, those independent wrestlers out there, they're doing the thing. Like, let's give them a little bit of a spotlight. If he misses you, probably just missed you, but he's gonna give a shout out to some people here.
So shout out to Jackson Roy. He's part of the Dynasty alongside Mikey Truth. Dude, great tag team. Killer instincts. Just super quick in the ring. Great promo guys too. I love them. Also, let me go down my followers list. Shout out to KPK, who is a Pakistani tag team, and they've been killing it in Battle Arts. That also helped me. And funny little story. It was for one of the members of KPK. His name's Emid. I actually hit him up before joining the school because I followed him and I asked him a few questions about Battle Arts. He told me to come by. So because of him is why I went to Battle Arts in a sense, because he told me some great things about that school. So shout out to those guys.
Maybe next week. Hopefully we get a show in next week and we don't keep missing weeks. It's just been a busy couple of weeks, obviously. Like I said, I had a wedding and then I just went to Calgary, which we're going to talk about next. But we'll follow up again. We'll see how next week goes with Daniel. We'll follow Daniel's wrestling journey as he is now officially training to be a professional wrestler. Obviously, guys, anything can happen, but we're hoping for the best. And he's been killing it so far and things have been going smoothly. For the most part, he's had some angry, frustrated days, but that comes with the territory.
I got chopped really hard.
Now panicking, man, gets scared sometimes, but he's getting over the nerves. It's his first couple of weeks. We're proud of you, and you're doing the thing, man. Just keep doing the thing.
Oh yeah.
I went to Calgary last minute, guys. That's why we didn't record a show last week. I booked a flight on Thursday. I usually record the shows on Thursday, Friday, like today's Friday. But last week I ended up booking a flight to Calgary to go support my boys, Blade and Dallas Hart, my boy Mo, Kid Chocolate, the Hart family. They're bringing professional wrestling back to Calgary. I'm going to say this. Some of you might disagree with me. There's a lot of good wrestling in Canada. Shout out to NEW, the old ECCW, ASW. Shout out to Superkick and OTT out in Toronto. Greek wrestling out there and stuff. All the promotions I'm probably missing. A Wrestle Court here in Vancouver as well. Shout out to all the Canadian companies. But for the most part, when people think of professional wrestling in Canada, they think of Calgary and they think of Stampede Wrestling and they think it's too hard in the Hart family. So for wrestling to return to Calgary like this, and there's other wrestling in Calgary too, but to be run by the Hart family, it's called Dungeon Wrestling. Like, that's some good shit. And of course I want to go out there and support them, and they really wanted me to come. They've been asking me to come since like the first show. This one was a big one. It was Calgary Stampede weekend. They're doing it at the Romero Distillery. Shout out to the Romero Distillery for being great hosts. I know they have a partnership with Bret Hart already, but allowing the family to do a wrestling show there was super cool. It was a good vibe. The booze was great. I wasn't trying to drink, but shout out to everybody I met at the show. That was super cool. That followed the page or used to follow the page. I had a guy come up to me. He's like, yo, man, like, I just want to tell you, like, I followed your page for so long, but then like I unfollowed it when you stopped posting videos. But like, you're such a cool guy. Like, I'm gonna follow it again, man, because you're like, I've never met you before, but like, you're like really like a cool guy. I'm like, why are you even telling me this? You should have just followed it back and acted like nothing ever happened. But I was trying to not drink, but everyone there that I met that either followed the page before or still followed it would just like go and buy me a drink. And shout out to all of them. It's always a pleasure meeting you guys. And for a lot of you, I did come and I asked you the same question. I asked everybody, give me feedback. What are 3 things you loved about the page? And everybody gave me their things that they liked about it or not. And it's not for me to blow smoke on my own ass. I just genuinely want to know like what you guys like and what you guys don't like. And I always appreciate the feedback. And it was cool meeting everybody. But yeah, Dungeon Wrestling, man. If it keeps going on the trajectory that it's going on, like, it's gonna be a dope company. Like,
it's blowing up already, man. I one thing I wish they would do, and I think I told you this, I wish like stream the matches where we can watch it online. No,
Well, I was pitching that a lot to Dallas and Blade and Mo. I was like, really, like you guys should really at least put one match from each show online.
yeah.
Like from this show, I was saying like you should probably put like Mo versus Brian Pillman Jr. on YouTube, or like send it to me and let me post it or something. Like it will get people going like, where is this? How do we watch it? That match alone got a lot of good feedback, man. Obviously Brett was there live. He did a meet and greet. He sat there. He watched the show. We'll talk about that in a second, but like he was there live and he really enjoyed that match. He's been mentoring and looking over Mo and Mo's career a ton. If you guys haven't checked out the old casual conversation I did with Mo and Blade back in 2020, it's available to watch on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you haven't seen Mo on the Dropkick podcast where I co-hosted with Daniel, I think that was from last year. Like Mo's a great guy. I think he deserves more recognition. He's killing it. And he's one of Brett's kids. None of Brett's kids wrestle. He has 2 daughters as well. None of them wrestle. Shout out to Blade and Bean. I mean, Jade and Beans. I met them this weekend too. They're super sweet. I met them before, but it was like for a lot of people, it was like a reunion meeting them again. But then also for some people, like this is the first time I've properly met Blade. We've talked so many times. He was like the first person that discovered my page back in 2014 because he's like I posted him and he went up like 7,700 followers or something, and then he like next to the whole family started following me. But like this was the first time like. Even when I had dinner with the Hart family in 2019, I had dinner with the entire family WrestleMania weekend at their hotel, and like everybody was there, and except I never met Brett's current wife, and I never met Blade and his girlfriend because they went to an art thing. But I met everybody else. I even met Brett for a couple of minutes before he went upstairs and stuff. So like, so this was like the first time meeting Blade. It was the first time meeting Steph. I got to meet Julie Hart. I got to meet Diana Hart. Like everybody was there. I got to meet Brooke properly again in person and her husband, and watch some old school wrestling matches of like TJ and Pete and Nick and Harry when they were like 19, 20, even like when they were 16 years old. Those matches when they were 16.
It's wild.
And we were sitting at Brooke's house, and it was like me, Mo, Harry, Brooke, Pete, and we were watching these matches they had when they were like, it was just a good time, man. Hung out with Brett. I think the coolest thing was there's a lot of cool things. I'm not going to share all of them because some of them are just like low key. But one of the coolest things was that I can share is when I got to the show and Brett guys got there. I really, of course, I want to go say hi to Brett's wife, who's done a lot for me in the past few years, Stephanie. She's gotten me shout outs for my friend that had prostate cancer, for my friend that got engaged, for my sister's wedding. She's always going above and beyond, and she's always been super helpful and super sweet. So like, this is my time to be like, thank you. But I went up to them, and as I walked up to them, I said hi to Steph, and then I looked at Brad, and he's like, "Hey, Justin," and I lost my mind a little bit. I don't work out, but like I said, when it's the OGs, like when it's Brad it's weird because I already know. Like I've told the story a million times. Like the time he pulled me out of the lineup and took me to the front at WrestleMania 34 weekend in New Orleans, and like the time Jamari FaceTime, like he knows, you know what I mean? But like
knows who you are.
I wasn't expecting to be like, "Hey, Justin," before I even said hi. So like, I don't know if like Steph's like, "Hey, that's Justin." Like I don't know if he got a heads up, but like the fact that happened, I was like, "Damn!" Then he was complimenting my shirt from Wrestling for Sale, and I told him I told him the quick story, but like how I've had the same shirt for like when I was 6 years old, and then I saw Ted selling it, and I had to buy it again in an adult size because it was one of my favorites. And he's like, "No, it's a really cool shirt. It's one of my favorites." And I was like, "That's cool." Then I had to go do a lap and stuff, and then came back, and then I was like, "You know what? I also want to thank you guys for everything you've done for the last few years and all that." And that's cool. But Brett's a man. Hung out with him a bit over the weekend as well, which is just surreal to me. Because I was staying at his kid's house. I stayed at Dallas's house. Thank you, Dallas. Thank you, Lindsay, for having me. The cute little daughter, Violet. She was funny. It was a good time. Checked out the Stampede a bit with Mo and Blade. Had a wild night. A little too wild. Crazy. It was the night before I flew home, and now I know why everyone's like, "Oh, when you party with Blade, you're gonna go hard," and that was definitely true. And it was nice seeing Pillman there. Obviously, those that know me or have had conversations with, or maybe even a long time listening to this show, I'm sure I've shared my Pillman stories somewhere down the line. We have a funny friendship, I would say. And another really cool thing was when I was talking to Brett Pillman, he was like, "Oh, my boy Justin," which also put me over even more. But like, it was good seeing Pillman. He's a man. I'm glad that he did the dungeon thing. And Jericho actually saw it. And Jericho was like, "Where was my invite?" And I think it was Pillman's match with Mo, because Jericho had a friend there that messaged Jericho and said, "Oh, Pillman killed it with this Mo guy," and I got Pillman booked on Dynamite this week, as we saw. He did the thing with Luchasaurus and Christian, so that was cool to see Pillman back on TV. Helping with that. Always great to see Harry. There was a funny moment where Harry forgot his belt in the back, so he had to go back and restart his entrance, but that was great. So it was great. Honestly, a huge shout out to Raj, True Raj Singh on Instagram. You guys should follow him. He's on Impact Wrestling. The night before, or the day before I was flying into Calgary, we had the Rogers outage, so nobody had any. So I was going to Calgary, and I didn't know who was going to pick me up from the airport. I didn't know Dallas's address. I didn't know where I was supposed to Uber to. And the thing is, the night before, Dallas, Blade, Mo, like the three people I was talking to the most, Dallas and Blade being Brett's kids, and they went to Brett's house the night before, and they had drinks, and they went out partying with Pillman and everybody, and they went to like the Stampede weekend. If you guys never been to Calgary, I would recommend going Calgary Stampede weekend. It's a blast. It was beautiful, it was sunny, a lot of beautiful women out there. It was a good time, but they partied. So when I started messaging them early in the morning, Saturday morning, then they partied the night before the show, but I thought, like, okay, it's a show day, so maybe nobody was awake, they were hungover and shit. Yeah, I couldn't get a hold of anybody, but I somehow managed to talk to Rod that night, and he's like, "Oh, you're coming?" He's like, "Oh," he said, "I'll pick you up from the airport," and he did, and it was our first time actually meeting. But everyone there was tripping. They're like, "Have you guys like been friends? Like, have you guys met?" I'm like, "No, it was the first time I met him." They're like, "Oh, it seems like you two have like known each other forever." And I don't know if it's just like the South Asian dissy, like the hospitality between this seas, like, just have each other and shit, but like, he just right away he was like, nah, like he picked me up from the airport, he took me to the wrestling school to train at, and I just hung out with him a couple, like he was just always, everybody in Calgary, Raj, the Hart family, their friend Gagan, like everybody, Gulam, who's a character, everybody was super like, if there was like, "Oh, we're doing this, like, what should Justin do?" Like, everyone's like, "No, we're hanging out with Justin. Like, we'll pick him up, but drop him off to me." Like, like everyone just treated me like family. Like, "Oh, fuck, like Justin needs something to do. Okay, we got him. Just drop him off over here. Like, come to my place. Come here." Like, everybody made sure that I was doing something fun, or like I wasn't just sitting around bored, because like obviously like the plan was just to go for the show, but then I wasn't leaving until Wednesday because that was like the cheapest flight option last minute. Hotel prices and flights went off, skyrocketed because of the Stampede. So it was a good time, man. Put some people over with the Hart kids. Put over some of my people and said, maybe bring them down here. Shout out to Adam Ryder, who was on the card. He's from Vancouver. He wrestled. I forget who he wrestled actually, but he had a really good match, and it was good to actually meet him, because I've seen him wrestle a ton here, but I've never really talked to him. And it was cool to see Raj bring his dad, Gama Singh, out there, the legendary Gama Singh. That's Raj's dad, Jinder Mahal's uncle, direct uncle. Like, so it's a small, little, tight-knit Indian wrestling community.
That's pretty cool. I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So Gama Singh is one of the top heels in Stampede Wrestling back in the day, like one of the top guys, and he did some stuff all in Impact recently. He was like a manager for the Desi Hit Squad and stuff, but that was cool to meet him and have him come out there, and to hear Sidhu Moosewala cranked when Raj came out. I popped, probably like the only person that did, but like, it was a good vibe, man. But definitely check out Dungeon Wrestling. I think the future looks bright. I'll definitely be attending more shows and showing up there and checking it out. They had like, I think like around 600 to 700 people that attended, sold out crowd. Insane. And the Hart Families bringing wrestling back to Calgary, man. And I had a great time. I had a great old time.
That's freaking dope.
Shout out to Blade. Shout out to Lindsay. Shout out to Mo. Shout out to everybody. Jade and Beans and Brett and Stephanie and Raj and Brooke and Harry and Pete.
So, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So, is your last name Dhillon or Hart? Because, at this point, you're like part of the family, bro.
Okay there, buddy. They're like, I think. I will never question if they fully like me or not, but they're like, and that's funny because like we kept talking about things. I'm just like, from like a fan's perspective, like, no, we get, like, Justin, we trust you, like, you get it, like, we want you here, we want you to be at the shows, we want you to give us your opinions and stuff, and like help out, and because it's new for them too, right? Like, there's a project for them to start a wrestling company and bring wrestling back to Calgary, and there's there's other companies, but this is like endorsed by Brett. He's out, like, for the most part, he's there. He's watching your guys' matches. The one thing I will say for any of the wrestlers that might get booked for Dungeon in the future. If you are listening to this, if Brett's there, pick his brain. And if that means just like lingering around, not like really running up to him asking for a picture, everything, if that just means lingering around to the point where he might call you over and be like, so what are you doing tonight? Do that. Because he wants to give back to wrestling as much as he can. I can tell you that first. And I know the one thing, he's always wished he could do more, but obviously he's kind of strapped with, his health and the situation. And that he can't really get in the ring and do more, really train people like that. But if he's there and he's accessible to you, pick his brain, ask him for advice, show him you care. Even if linger around thinking about your match, and he'll call you over and be like, okay, so what are you thinking? Like, what's going on? Who are you wrestling? Okay. Because that's what he's there for. Sit under the learning tree. If you want to take a picture with him, that's cool, but don't make that the only thing you do. Talk to him. He's honest as fuck. That sometimes can be taken the wrong way, but I'd rather someone be honest to me than lie to me.
Lie to you,
say something to my face, I walk away and they're like, fuck that guy. So like
Brett's real, man.
Brett's real. And I said that to the kids a bunch. I'm like, this is one thing I can say about you now. I appreciate how honest he is. I think that's the coolest part of the whole shtick is that he won't beat around the bush. So if you get Bret Hart's ear, if you have the opportunity to ask him a question, then do so, man. I'm going to meet a lot of the weird Hart family fans. Some guy brought like Lego Hart family members. And so there's it was a good trip, guys. If you had a chance to go to Calgary for Dungeon Wrestling, go check it out. If you're in Calgary, if you're in Edmonton, it's worth the drive. If you're in Edmonton, the 2 hours, go check out a show. They want to do bigger events. So definitely be doing more events. I think the next one's in October. I know we kind of talked about maybe you guys should do one sooner because the hype's here right now, but October is the one for sure that's happening. And I had a great time, man. Go, and also if they do another show Stampede weekend, go, because the vibe was tight. I really dug it. It was a good week. It was a weird weekend. It was a really weird weekend.
Yeah, you gotta write this in your book, man. You gotta write this in your book.
There's some things I'm not saying, obviously, because I don't know if I should say it, but there's some things that were oh wow, this is my life.
One of the coolest stuff.
That's so weird that this is my life, and I'm not trying to be a mark or because I'm not the way I act. You'll notice the way I act is not. I'm not very marky. I'm a very whatever is my number one philosophy of life. It's just everything's whatever. But I always say, I feel like I'm an old soul because I don't really get impressed by big things and stuff as much as you think people would. I get more fascinated by the small things and the little things. But life's cool, man. Do what you want to do. Chase your dreams. Take some rest. Bet on yourself. Be broke. Pursue happiness.
It's all fucking worth it, man. As long as it makes you happy, man. And
pursue happiness.
Pursue that shit.
Pursue happiness at all costs. Embrace the madness. Ooh, yeah. And keep doing the thing, man. I think it's fun. You're a wrestler.
I'm not gonna lie to you. It's fucking surreal.
That's crazy. I always talk about you guys seen the comment from MJF where he said he went home and he told his dad he wanted to be a wrestler and one day you're gonna post me on your page as a WWE wrestler. And I've told the story about Mariah even when I've interviewed her for casual conversations about I slid in her DMs and in our first conversation, literally our first conversation when I was asking if she's really a wrestling fan. She's like, no, I want to be a wrestler. Mm-hmm. And then fast forward talking to you and Vic, when I first came on your guys' show and you guys were trying to stalk me to promote Nexus or whatever. In one of our first conversations, both of you kids said you wanted to be wrestlers. So I just always find it fascinating to see the ones that follow through with that shit. And I'm not saying everyone has their own reasons why they don't follow through and life happens and shit happens, but to see a lot of people really follow through with it is cool, man. And to know that a lot of my first conversations with you guys, the first conversations with Max, my first conversations with Mariah, they've all kind of been the same thing. I want to be a wrestler. Now they're doing it. I'm gonna fight Mariah. We were in Calgary at the same time. We never crossed paths, but she was working and I was a little busy. A lot of the times where I could have went to the Stampede, Like, do you want to go to Stampede, Justin? Do you want to go do this? I usually choose the other thing because I'm not too much of a party guy no more. As you can tell, the last night over there, I almost died. But yeah, I'll see Mariah soon too. I'm sure I'll see Max again soon. Me and Daniel never met in person. That's gonna be that's crazy for people to think about. It's crazy for me to think
We
about.
never met, bro.
That's crazy, the relationships I've built just by like.
You gotta come down for like a battle arch. I know Kurt Angle's gonna be here in August.
I mean, I met your trainer Nick. I met your trainer Nick. He was on the Dungeon Wrestling show.
Hell
Met
yeah,
him.
Coach Nick.
Yeah, I met all the women and the guys that wrestled in the show. Everyone was super cool. But met trainer Nick, super nice guy. But even him was like, "Yo, come down to OTT Wrestling." He's like, "I'm like one of the owners of it. We'd love to have you, etc., etc." So
yeah, come down.
All right, guys. I think that's a wrap. This is a good show. Go 2 weeks behind. Shout out Liv Morgan again. Happy for her. I think that's like I'm happy for Swerve. I'm happy for Mella. I'm happy for Lashley. I'm happy for everybody. Mella is fucking money, but I think the most happy for Liv Morgan. Like, I think this is a cool time in her career, and I'm excited for her. And I'm glad she's SmackDown Women's Champion. We'll see what happens on SmackDown tonight. Yeah, dude.
Oh yeah, chase your dreams, fight for your dreams, and your dreams will fight for you.
Brian Danielson, what's the Bret Hart one? Dreams still do come true, he said when he won the WWF Championship.
Your biggest dreams can still come true.
All right.
Something like that.
Can you do the thing? We'll see you all next time. Ooh, yeah. Dig it. Uh-huh.